Hello and welcome back to Swarzo History. Last time we talked about Towton and the Battle of Towton, and in this one we're going to talk about the stuff that happens pretty much immediately after the Battle of Towton and the rise of Edward IV as King of England. On the album Born to Rule, the song that I wrote about this stuff is called Seize the Day. So the Battle of Towton happened in March of 1461, and then from there it did not take very long at all for Edward to go ahead and seize power. He was crowned King of England in June, so only a few months later. Actually, he was crowned on June 28th, which was the release date of the album. So the Battle of Towton was really a catastrophic failure for the Lancastrians, and that was a huge army just gone. Henry VI, the king himself, was not there, so he was fine. After the Battle of Towton, Henry, Queen Margaret, and a lot of other Lancastrians took off north. The royal family went to Scotland and lived in exile there for a little while. Nobility who stood by Henry's side of this whole conflict were branded as traitors. A lot of them had all of their stuff confiscated, so their lands, their estates, which is a big deal because that is a big source. That is the primary source of your income. But one note, and this is important, the new king, Edward, he really was smart and saw the value in bringing former enemies into his fold instead of just going on an all-out campaign to kill everyone who formerly stood against him. So he offered mercy a lot to anyone who would really submit and come over to his side and move along as if he's the king and nothing bad happened. And a lot of them did. They took that deal. It was the smart thing to do for a lot of them. And in the meantime, there were still Lancastrian holdouts, a lot of them in the north, and there were a bunch of campaigns against those rebels. His goal was to solidify his rule as the one King of England and end everything. And basically, throughout the rest of 1461 and the next few years, he spent his time solidifying this power. Really, the last big fight of this little period was the Battle of Hexham in 1464. Essentially, a rebel Lancastrian force under the new Duke of Somerset was defeated in a very one-sided battle by a Yorkist force under John Neville, Lord Montague. Don't know too much about it, other than the Lancastrians don't seem to have put up too much of a fight. It ended badly for them, and John Neville ended up executing like 30 leading Lancastrian nobles that were there. And of course that included this Duke of Somerset as well. Henry VI wasn't there because he had been captured like a million times before, so so people knew not to involve him in these things, but he basically ended up just hanging out in the north of England during the rest of this period. But there was no more significant military resistance from the Lancastrians after this. It was over. And then eventually in 1465, a group of Yorkists found out where Henry VI was staying, and they went out and captured him. So that was the end. The end for now. So my song, Seize the Day, off the album, is really just to explain kind of what was happening during this period. It was Edward IV rising to power, having just gone through all of this hardship to take the throne, and now he's there, he won, he is the king now, and he is crushing whatever Lancastrian resistance is still there, and he's ready to do that. He's ready to solidify his place as King of England. As we will see over the next couple videos, things deteriorate once again, and a lot of that has to do with Richard Neville the Kingmaker. But before we talk about him again, we are going to talk about the Calais garrison in the next video, and that's a very interesting topic for me. That is something that came up a lot in my research for my master's thesis. The Calais garrison is very important to this whole series of events, so we're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff related to the Calais garrison. It's a good time, it's fascinating stuff, and I think it's enjoyable too. I had to make a song about it. So that does it for this video. Quick update on Swarzo stuff. I have started working on new music, which is very exciting. I took a little bit of a break after the album was released, and then ended up itching to get back to making stuff. But as I'm sure you know, music production costs money, and I still am working to recoup the costs of having made this last album. If you enjoyed Born to Rule, or if you've been listening to it on streaming services or whatever, I highly encourage you to consider buying it. You can buy it digitally on my website or on Bandcamp. You can buy a CD if you want. That's what I prefer to do when I buy music, just because I like when I give someone money to get something physical for it. Also, there is merch on the merch store. Anything you buy from me will help fund both the costs of the last album and the cost of making the next project. One of the hardest parts about being an independent musician is having to ask people for money, because I want to make this stuff, it's expensive to make. What are you gonna do? But anyway, that does it for this video. I will see you in the next one when we talk about the soldiers of Calais.